Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth Sherman from Total Health by Elizabeth, and today what I wanted to talk to you about is, you already know how to read nutritional labels, but sometimes they can be really confusing. You don't know, is this food something that I should be eating or not? Or when you're comparing two different products, how do you know which one you should choose? So let's go through nutritional labels first. And what we have here is just the basic nutrition facts. So up at the top, you see nutrition facts, you see your serving size. Now your serving size is actually going to be really important here because that's the amount of nutrients that nutritional label is based on. So for instance, like hummus, for example, often is two tablespoons of hummus. But who eats 2 tablespoons of hummus? I know I don't. I eat probably twice as much of that. So look at that nutritional serving size and make sure that what you're eating is actually what's there. Otherwise, you're going to have to increase or decrease that. Next, you're going to be looking at the calories, and the calories are important. Calories do count, especially when you're trying to reduce your weight or maintain your weight. Anyone that tells you that calories don't count isn't giving you the whole story. So then the next thing that we're going to be looking at is the total fat. And what I want you to notice under your total fat is that you actually have 2 things that are indented. And what those do is they actually tell you how much of that total fat is saturated fat and or trans fat. They may not add up to your total amount of fat, and what you find out then is how much of that total fat is monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. A little bit further down, you have your cholesterol and sodium. So your general sodium intake for the day should be no less than 2,500 milligrams. And we're not really going to be talking about that too much today, but I did want to mention it. But what we are going to be talking about is this total carbohydrates. And then again, notice underneath that you have your fiber grams and your sugar grams. Because again, just like with the fat, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be adding those up to see how much of your total carbohydrates come from fiber and or sugar. The last thing down at the bottom is the amount of protein that you have within that food, okay? So why is this important? Well, what we want to do is when you're trying to lose weight or when you're trying to maintain weight, the amount of starch or carbohydrates that you have in your system is actually going to play an important role in how you maintain your weight. So you want to keep your blood sugar low, just so, not too low, but low enough so that you don't have crazy spikes and then drops so that you then get hungry again. So what we're going to do is I want to teach you this really great little trick that I learned from the Metabolic Effect. They're a group out of North Carolina, and I wish I could say that I came up with this rule by myself, but I didn't. But I do want to share it with you because I think it's pretty awesome. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the total number of carbohydrates. Okay, so you're going to take that number off of your nutritional label. Then what you're going to do is you're going to subtract out both your fiber and your protein. And you're going to subtract that from your total number of carbohydrates. You want that number then to be 10 or less. And so what that's going to do is it's going to tell you what your hormonal impact is of your carbs. And if that number is 10 or less or negative, it's all the better. So let's take a look at some foods that you might be familiar with. So let's take a look at a Snickers bar. So a Snickers bar has a total number of carbohydrates of 33. Okay, so it's not too bad. But only 2 of those grams of carbohydrates are from fiber. And within a Snickers bar, you only have 4 grams of protein. So that's a total of 6. So taking 6 from 33 gives me a number of 27, and that's a lot higher than the 10 that we want to go for. I mean, you already knew that Snickers weren't a good choice, right? But now we actually have a way to validate that. Okay, let's take a look at pretzels. So pretzels are a pretty common snack. And, you know, for a long time, people were suggesting that pretzels were a better snack for you. So if you wanted to eat healthier, that you could go for pretzels. And, you know, compared to a Snickers bar, it actually is. So with pretzels, we have 1 serving is 23 grams of carbohydrates. But again, they don't have a lot of fiber in them. They have 1 gram of fiber and they have 2 grams of protein. So out of that, that's a total of 3 grams. And so we're going to subtract that from the 23. That gives us 20. So that's pretty close to what the Snickers bar was. So again, pretzels probably aren't a great choice. Moving on to hummus. All right, hummus is fantastic. Again, I mentioned it before, and I love hummus, but you know, generally we eat a lot more than just the 2 tablespoons that's recommended. So take that into consideration. So with hummus, my total number of carbohydrates is 6. I have 2 grams of fiber, so that's actually a pretty good percentage. And then I have 3 grams of protein. So my net carbohydrates there is 1. So if you take 2 plus 3, that equals 5. Subtract 5 out of 6, and you get 1. So that's actually a really good choice. You're not going to have a lot of blood sugar spike from eating hummus. Okay, I have 2 more for you. They're both protein bars, because protein bars can be really confusing when you're at the grocery store. So I wrote up a Snickers Marathon protein bar. So here's a really good rule of thought. If it tastes like a candy bar, it probably is. So with my Snickers Marathon bar, I have 45 grams of carbohydrates in there. Now, that is actually a little bit more than my plain old Snickers bar. But where things start to get good then is that instead of the 1 gram of fiber, I actually have 8 grams of fiber. And instead of 4 grams of protein, I have 20. So that's good. Adding those together, I get a total of 28. Subtract 28 from 45 and I get 14. So it's not perfect, but if you ate half of it, then it might not be that bad. So you're going to have half as much of a sugar spike. So if you really like it and it fills you up, you can have it, just have a little bit less than what the whole container is. And then finally, Quest bars. I love Quest bars, and one of the reasons that I love Quest bars is because they fill me up and their hormonal impact is fantastic. So here, I have 20 grams of carbohydrates in a Quest bar. 14 of those are from fiber. That's an amazing amount of fiber in one packaged good. We also get 20 grams of protein in there. So that's a net of 34 grams. Subtract 34 from 20 and you actually get a negative 14. That's phenomenal. So, you know, a Quest bar is actually going to be a really good choice. Now, granted, whole foods are always better, and the rules that I'm talking about right now are really only for those things that have nutritional labels. So when you go to the grocery store and you're looking in the produce aisle and you see an apple, if you sit there scratching your head like, I wonder what my hormonal effect is on this, it doesn't really matter, because you know what? It's a whole food. It's good for you. It was grown in nature that way, and it doesn't have any chemicals or anything like that. So eat it. But for those things that have nutritional labels, like breads and, you know, protein bars, for an example, or any other snacks, this is a really great little trick for you on how to tell if a food is good for you or not. So again, what you're doing is you're taking your total carbohydrates, subtracting out the fiber and the protein, and then adding that all together, and you want a 10 or less. Negative numbers are better than, you know, anything. Negative numbers win, but that's about it. So again, I'm Elizabeth Sherman. I'm from Total Health by Elizabeth. I have a link in my description here. If you want to get more tips like this, go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter, and I will see you all later. Bye, guys.